Hello, everyone. This is Joanna. I'd like to welcome you again on our another webinar. I am here with Rajit, who is the CEO of Cloud Control, and today's webinar is quite special, especially because I want to personally congratulate Rajit that they became uh, AWS certified software. So, congratulations! I believe that this is something that we need to discuss. Rajit, you want to say
Thank
something?
thank you. Thanks. And yeah, it was a good, a great journey from ideation to have becoming a cloud, AWS certified or qualified software. So thanks, Joanna.
Really, I'm really happy, and I'm really glad that you guys achieved that because it's well deserved. But let's make a little bit of time traveling. Do you remember what were you working on, or what kind of project, or you don't need to disclose anything,
Mhm.
uh, you know, uh, sensitive, but do you remember what were you working on while you came up with an idea for this tool?
Sure. I primarily come from an enterprise background. So I was with a large enterprise fintech for more close to 20 to 23 years. And during the last about 10 years there, I was the cloud enterprise cloud architect for them. So I gained a lot of experience in bringing cloud solution with full self-service to the enterprise. And then after I left that firm, I was consulting. Um, and my boss did the same thing. So we both consulted for a while for other fintechs and realized that there is a challenge in the market when it comes to large enterprises. And then later we found out that it is also true for startups, where this new cloud technology is coming out, which is
Okay.
Kubernetes. So I think I have a slide for that. So uh, uh, we did when we did the previous cloud for the enterprise, it was on virtual VMs or VM, virtualization or
Mhm.
VMware or VMs. What ended up happening is, once we started gaining this knowledge in the industry, working for other firms, we realized that Kubernetes has huge benefits, right? So
Yeah.
that's what triggered us saying, "Oh, can we repeat this?" And lessons learned from our previous experience, can we bring something to Kubernetes where we can solve the same problem that we solved for the enterprise? Can we solve it for the market, for the industry, by creating this new software to manage Kubernetes?
Okay. As you said, you and your former boss were discussing, you were a consultant. So you had an idea to challenge your thoughts with your coworkers. And what was missing? What was missing that forced you, motivated you to move with this idea?
Good question. So when we looked at the new cloud technologies that are, cloud is again always evolving. So Kubernetes is a big game changer, and there are a lot of articles and blogs written about it, and I think that's the second largest developer community, just behind Linux. So it's a lot of innovation going into Kubernetes.
Mhm.
And what was happening was, whenever these new technologies comes up, everyone has to catch up.
Yes.
So when a company that wants to use cloud, and now they are looking at, hey, I don't want to be in VMs anymore. I want to leverage this new technology. How do you do that? This was the same challenge we had in our enterprise
Mhm.
lifetime, right? So what decided is, hey, let's look at this new opportunity. And when we talked to coworkers and people in our circles, they all said the same thing. Oh, what is Kubernetes? It's very intimidating. How do I use it? I know there are a lot of benefits. I know Google invented it, and there is this huge open source community out there. How do we use it, with less friction, right? So that's what kind of motivated us to come up with this.
Okay. You mentioned benefits. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yes, and this slide kind of tells you what it is in a nutshell, right? So what Kubernetes is it's a new provisioning and infrastructure management mechanism. leveraging containers. So the benefits primarily are, increasing the agility. So containers can be moved quickly and it is more standardized. So what happens is when you have to deploy something, when you have to fix a new bug or or release a new feature, your developers have the ability to deploy it much faster than a VM when it comes to Kubernetes. So you can increase your agility, right? Number
Mm-hmm.
two, reduce your risk because Kubernetes is a declarative mechanism. So you're not dealing with APIs and stuff. You do have the option to use APIs and CLIs, but behind the scenes it's a declarative mechanism. So that means everything is predefined, and there's a set standard on working with Kubernetes. So that enables you to put some standards around it. That means you can standardize and reduce risk and reduce cost. So when
Mm-hmm.
you standardize, and it forces you to standardize. Now it all depends on what tool you use. And when we looked at the market, we did not see there are several other tools, but we thought, hey, we can bring a different viewpoint to this, where we can completely automate Kubernetes deployments. So our starting point was, hey, can we take Kubernetes and bring workloads into it without actually somebody have to learn Kubernetes? And
Yes.
that's what our tool is all about.
Okay. And you mentioned right now that the market wasn't full of this technology, and also that it is quite new, invented by Google, etc. Weren't you afraid that this product will flop? What were your biggest fears, and what you felt the strongest?
Good. So we had been working with containers. I personally was playing with Docker, which is the technology that the people used before Kubernetes, transitioning to
Hmm.
Kubernetes. So the underlying technology, which is containerization, has a lot of benefits.
Yes.
And when Google invented it, it was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. The reason there are a couple of things there, right? Number one, containerization. I think if you read about it and if you get involved deeply, it's a very promising technology. That's number one. Number two, by the time Google came up with Kubernetes and the community was formed, there was the need for this something that can make life easier for container management, and
Hmm.
that's what Kubernetes helped, right? So there was a market already for Kubernetes for containers, and people were struggling with it because they were doing it manually, right?
Yes.
Um, Now Kubernetes came in and filled the space, saying, "Hey, here is a way to interact with containers and orchestrate containers." Right? That's the right word. So what Kubernetes does is orchestrate your containers, which is a must when it comes to container management. So they just filled in a gap on a market where there was already good traction in containerization. So
Cool.
that was our trigger, saying, "Yeah, this is a good opportunity to start working on a tool."
Yeah, and you took this opportunity. And do you remember how long it took you to from the idea to the first implementation? Do you remember that?
Yeah. So when the first version, when the idea came up, we played with it a little bit. I personally played with it. I'm a coder even today. I started coding with it, starting to learn how Kubernetes deals with containerization. I had previous experience dealing with containers directly using Docker. That was the popular API prior to Kubernetes. So I played with it, and then the way it turned out is that Kevin was my boss, so we both got together. We thought, okay, hey, why don't we do a kind of a proof of concept? So
Mm-hmm.
we started. So I basically started coding. I had a couple of developers helping me. We created the very basic version of our platform back in 2018.
Wow.
And then that was a success. We were able to build and deploy applications components without the developer actually knowing Kubernetes or containerization, right? That was our first kind of goal or milestone. So when we did that, we said, okay, now we need to form a company. We have to go through all the process. So in 2019, we ended up registering the company about 7 months into coding. 7 months into the first ideation meetings. We started that, and 2019 we ended up registering the company and having a better development team. I did most of the coding, but I had about 3 or 4 more developers helping me.
Cool. That's super interesting. And how you ended up on a marketplace? Tell me more about it.
Good. All right. So I have a couple of slides prepared. So when we looked at the product, we started with the basic version, basic use case, which is deploying something to Kubernetes without actually learning Kubernetes. That was the concept, right? So
Yes.
then we wanted to make sure that the other challenges that we identified by looking at the market and our experience. So we wanted to make sure that there is a way for legacy applications to come on board as well, because Kubernetes is such a new technology. A lot of people have older legacy applications. We want to make sure that there is a transition for them. So we added some tools for that. Then we also looked at the skill set, right? Again, the basic use case was, hey, how can I deploy to Kubernetes without learning Kubernetes? So that kind of fixes the talent scarcity issue. So you don't have to hire a Kubernetes engineer, or you don't have to hire a container specialist to use our tool, right? So again, the concept here is that, and there are several other challenges also, it's listed there. So our idea was, hey, let's create a tool, right? And take a tool-based approach to solve these problems. So we ended up building that. We took almost about a year to kind of fine tune all that pieces, and then came 2020, where we figured out, how do we get more traction?
Okay.
So, and we also wanted to, so we were looking at, go-to-market strategies. And of course, we wanted to use our connections and get some traction. That's number one, right? So
Yes.
that's where most of our customers initially came through that channel, because we had connections. We showed them the demo. They came on board. It started working, and they were happy. Now, the other channels that we are exploring, one of them was, hey, how do we make sure that it's completely a self-service? So that
Mm-hmm.
means if a startup comes on board, can they go to some place, click few buttons, and get this tool installed and start deploying applications? So we started researching, and we came across the AWS Marketplace. So we reached out to them, and they were very helpful. We had a single point of contact there, and we started working. They had a process. We went through that process. It took a few months, and they were really helpful in that process. It was they kind of handled all the way, and the advantage we got is that now we have a fully self-service way to install and start the process, and we have a few webinars that are related to that, and we are demonstrating that in a couple of webinars as well.
Okay. And since you mentioned that everyone now can go and find the tool, how can you do it? Can you elaborate more on that?
Yes. So I have one slide here with the QR code. So here is our listing. So if you scan this QR code, it will take you directly there. So
Cool.
if you have an AWS account, so let me make it full screen, see if we can. So on the top right-hand side here, you will see a subscribe. So
Yes.
you can simply click on that, and it will basically take you through the process of creating the cluster. And
Mm-hmm.
and it will basically give you a few endpoints. Those endpoints are basically what you'll use for your webhooks and stuff like that for your Git integration. So the concept is that you go and subscribe it. Once you
Mm-hmm.
subscribe it, you get the endpoint. You put the endpoint in your Git repository, and you can start deploying. That's the idea.
So basically, just click and go. Yes. So you can use it like
Yes.
super
Yeah.
fast.
After this, there are a few more steps, but it's basically
Mhm.
click and go.
Okay, that's super cool, super fast. And since I mentioned at the beginning, now you are certified. So, what kind of advantages for the customers are coming with this certification?
Good. So first of all, that brings a lot of credibility to our software. So we are getting more and more inbound calls now about hey, how to start. So what we have done is we couple of things for the customer. Number one, of course, it's listed. It is also it's listed as a qualified software. That means after listing, AWS actually tested our platform and certified it to the level that they gave us a badge that says qualified software, right? So that means it's functioning according to their specs and their security certification, things like that. Number two, what is happening is people want help. So once, hey, this is good, but still it's like, yeah, what if I get hit a roadblock? So what we have done is we created a Slack channel. So everyone who signs up, they will get instructions to join our Slack channel, and our developers are always just one click away from in Slack.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's
one another part I wanted to cover is also that see from a um, company that is providing the software through AWS Marketplace, I see several advantages as well, right? So that is,
mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, I kind of listed four of them here, which is a uh, as a vendor. Now my customers can, as you said, one click install, they get my software. Number one. Number two, it's an API based reporting, so everything is automated on my side as well. For example, in the AWS Marketplace, once it is installed through AWS Marketplace, the billing is integrated. So what we do is we report the usage to AWS through an API, and then the billing is integrated. That means our license fees and things like that is included as part of the billing as a pay as you go basis along with the AWS billing.
Okay. And does it also help you, like in general, to promote your product, to be recognized more? Do you have this feeling that it gave you this prestige?
Yes, it did bring a lot of credibility, and working with AWS and also with directly with customers definitely brings you a lot of credibility because we can always point them to that page and they can read about it. And we also present our material to them as well when we are selling to them. But it does get you a lot of credibility because they know that it's going to work. Number one. And number two, it makes it much more easier for them to try, right? So it's like pay as you go. You try it. If it doesn't work out, you can just get rid of the resources and it is gone, right?
Oh,
So that's an important benefit for the customer.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because sometimes customers like are willing to download something, to try something, but they download and they don't have any idea what to do with it. So you just
Right.
mentioned that they have this kind of support, yes, and they can either contact you, your team, or just resign, yes.
Right. So we provide the Slack support. We have a team 24/7 supporting the Slack. So if they have any questions, they always reach out to us. We help them out. And if they don't like it, they can always uninstall it. Just
Mm-hmm.
unsubscribe. So once you unsubscribe, what happens is all the resources will be taken out, and there more no more billing from that point.
Okay. And I have one final question actually, because during our last webinars, I was putting the huge pressure on this that we are strongly promoting our free demo session.
Mhm.
Are the customers from AWS marketplace also, okay for this demo session? Can they have this demo session?
Yes. So I have another QR code here. So let me pull that. Okay, so this is a QR code where you can actually go in and sign up through our website for any demos that you need, and also we do free assessment. For example, if you have a workload that in mind that you want to put in Kubernetes, we can do an evaluation, quick evaluation. It's a bunch of questions that we'll ask. It's a quick Zoom session, 15 minutes to 30 minutes. We can talk to you and we can tell you if it's going to be compatible and also answer any questions you might have in terms of migrating to the new world of Kubernetes.
That's cool. That's great. And we, of course, encourage everybody to register, to check out, to ask questions, and also comment on this webinar. From my side, I have no further questions. I do not see any other questions appearing. So once again, I want to congratulate, and I wish you all the best. And I hope that you get a lot of other certificates.
Thank you very much.
For
Thanks,
your
Joanna.
business to evolve and grow.
Thank you very much, and thanks for everyone for joining. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, guys. This webinar will be available on YouTube and LinkedIn, and you can always rewatch it. You can also reach out to us directly through LinkedIn or using those QR codes, and we will answer all the questions that may appear during rewatching or right now, because maybe I missed some of the questions. Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you.